Regular meeting of the Wappinger Town Board to order. May the clerk please call the roll.
Councilman Beal.
Here.
Councilwoman Bettina.
She is feeling under the weather.
Councilman Phillips.
Here.
Councilman Casella.
Here.
Supervisor Cavazzini.
Here. In just a moment, I'm going to ask you to rise for the salute to the flag, followed by an invocation provided to us by former Dutchess County Executive William F.X. O'Neill of Calvary Chapel. And that will be followed by a brief moment of silent meditation. So please rise and join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening. Most people know me because I did work in county government as the county executive, and prior to that I was the deputy and chief of staff for previous county executive Mark Molinaro. But most people don't realize that I'm also an ordained pastor with the Calvary Chapel of Hudson Valley. And so when our senior pastor, Bobby Hargraves, couldn't make it tonight, I was honored to do so. And it does feel right to be here among friends. Your new town supervisor, Joey Cavazzini, has become a friend as part of the county legislature. Bill Beal, who I've known for many years, a fellow employee at the county, and I've watched him grow and prosper and advance in his career, or shall I say careers. And of course, Chris and Al, also good friends. So it is wonderful to be here tonight. You know, there's an age-old saying that government and religion need to be separated. And that's kind of like saying that God does not belong in government. And I think that's wrong. And I believe that we need God for his guidance and direction. And for the past 12 years, we've had an annual county prayer breakfast. We have another one coming up in May. And once a month, we had a Bible study and prayer breakfast or prayer meeting for the county leaders. And I think it's the reason we prospered so well. I will say that there is no book of politics. There is no letter from Paul to the legislators, but if we acknowledge God and we seek his guidance, he is faithful and he will help us to do the right thing for our constituents. So if you will, please bow your heads and let's pray. Heavenly Father, God Almighty, creator of all things, we ask for your blessing upon us and for these public servants who are here to do God's will, and may it be your will as well. Lord, we know that there is evil in this world. The Apostle Paul reminds us our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against powers of this dark world and against spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realm. And so we come humbly before you, Lord, and we ask for your divine power and your endless mercy to help us to make the right decisions in the face of that evil, and let us do what is good and noble and pleasing to you. So hear us, dear Lord. Help us put on that armor of God so that we can stand against the devil's schemes, that strengthen us with the belt of truth and protect us with your breastplate of righteousness and arm us with the gospel of peace, the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. And so, Lord, bless these fine people, these public servants who meet tonight to do the work of government, and let your Spirit drive them. May their actions align with your will, and may they protect and serve our families, our friends, and our neighbors. Protect them, bless them, and may their individual and combined efforts bring you glory. And I pray all this in the powerful name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. And thank you, Bill, for those empowering words. We do appreciate them. Thank you. Okay. At this time, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll move it. Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Beal. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to acknowledge the minutes of February 29, 2024?
Move. Second.
Moved by Councilman Beal, second by Councilman Phillips. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we have one public hearing. This is on local law number 1 of 2024. This public hearing is specifically on the local law. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll move it. Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Beal. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, thank you very much. At this time, anyone wishing to speak on local law number 1 is welcome to come up, give their name, address for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Marcy Wagman, Old Troy Road. So thank you for your time. I support the proposed, is the mic on?
Yeah, just tilt it down. Thank you, Marcy.
I support the proposed law and hope that during this pause, we can rethink how development of housing is managed in the town of Wappinger. There are a few points I would like you to consider. I understand that the town's current housing stock is 40% multifamily and 60% single-family housing. And I think, by the way, we need to explore those statistics and the details behind them more. And I don't know what the level of density is in the number that would indicate that the town would be shifting from a suburban rural density to an urban density, but I would suggest that at 40% multifamily, we are edging towards that. If we become a town reaching urban density levels, please remember that many things that need to change will need to change. A different town government structure, a much different safety, police, EMS, fire infrastructure than we currently have, different transportation management, additional social and education services, and more water and sewer infrastructure. The burden of those changes will be placed on the current property owners and residents. And while funding and grants may be available to developers from outside government agencies like the county and state to help with their development costs, the associated costs of that growth will be placed squarely on current residents. So please keep that in mind when considering new development. I have sat through many planning board and zoning board meetings, and my observation is that our current zoning code and mindset is a very dated one, and I hope will be challenged during this pause. There's some sloppiness around the term affordable housing. Planners and government officials use the term, sometimes slipping in the term workforce housing to help soften the implications. It often means building as many housing units as possible, built with a minimum of investment required and a minimum of long-term developer involvement. This is based on the idea that additional housing can only be provided with large developers, typically from outside the town, mining our town's resources to create new neighborhoods with new construction in large swaths. What this leaves the town with is a jolt to the infrastructure systems I mentioned previously and a ticking clock of when issues will emerge, and they will, long after the development company has taken their profits and left town. We have especially seen this with water issues, sewer issues time and time again. With this affordable housing definition, the focus is on the initial cost of housing for either the home buyer or renter and never focuses on the long-term costs. But when I hear residents speak of affordable housing, they are speaking of the affordability of their housing, which goes beyond the initial purchase of rental of a home, but rather on the ongoing maintenance, tax burdens, and if renting, unexpected rent increases. Residents, when they say affordable housing, by and large mean they're concerned about their ability to continue to live in their home and in their community. I think we need to address the affordability of housing, that is helping residents and by extension renters manage the costs of owning their property. I believe this requires a change to the zoning code, which currently presumes that a nuclear family is the predominant housing unit requirement. That may have been the case, or maybe that was just thinking, in the 60s and 70s when a lot of the housing stock in Wappinger was built. But families today come in all shapes and sizes. Whatever their shape and size, their housing needs change over time. The zoning code needs to help residents adapt to these changes and make investments in their properties that allow them to stay in the community. For example...
You just have 15 seconds.
No, I don't. Where appropriate, residents may be able to invest in their property to add an additional living unit. That is a separate entrance or kitchen or an accessory dwelling unit to use as a place for a home health aide or to stay, or an au pair, or for other family members to live, or as a rental property, either short-term or long-term, as long as the property is owner-occupied. Today, that's allowed only through a variance on a temporary basis. And if the property is sold, it must revert to single-family home. If the code is changed, housing costs can be shared or additional income potential can be realized, helping to address the affordability concerns of the town's residents. This, of course, will not work in every neighborhood or for every homeowner, but there are a large number of properties in this town built in the 60s and 70s that assumed family shapes and sizes that are no longer applied. So let's encourage the adaptation and refurbishment of current housing stock, perhaps even commercial buildings where appropriate, rather than tearing up our few remaining green spaces and subjecting the town to the vagaries of developer financing like we currently have. There are architects, contractors, and engineers who are well qualified to help residents in adapting their homes. Let's update the code to assist with these changes. With these changes, the town's housing stock will grow organically rather than a big bang, and will benefit the current residents, those who've been paying taxes to the town for years, by enhancing the value of their property, enabling them to use their equity to help them with their costs, and at the same time increase the opportunities for additional housing. This would strengthen our community by enabling residents to stay in the town rather than feeling forced to move when their housing requirements change. I'd also like to remind you that Wappinger is a riverside greenway community, and as such, the town's zoning code needs to reinforce and complement the objectives set forth by the Hudson River Valley Greenway Framework. I know this is not a 100% solution to all the challenges facing Wappinger, and a study of other municipalities and their codes need to be evaluated for best practices, but let's remember that you are representing the current residents of the town and are working to help strengthen our community, not strengthen the profit margin of others. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Wagner. Anyone else wishing to speak on local law number 1? Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Grace Martin. I live at 52 Fieldstone Boulevard. I'm in support of this local law. I've stood in front of the board a few times during the debates where some of the housing wanted to be brought up. I stood in front of you, as well as the planning board, as well as in front of the zoning board. I truly do support this local law, and I appreciate that there will be a moratorium on looking at how we could keep our town with the way we want it to look. I'm in my house now 40 years, and I want to age in my house. And I can tell you every day I appreciate the safety that this town board is looking at. I come up and down Myers Corners, and only a few days ago, once again, there was a 4-car accident right almost by Meadowbrook Farms. It is constant. You also know that I myself had a medical emergency in this building in October 2022. And I could not have my local EMTs right across the street, right across the parking lot come. It took somebody 15 minutes to assess me. I was very fortunate, but I was assessed for a stroke, and I didn't have a stroke. But those minutes are critical. If you continue to grow this town, we already had Dr. Bach stand in front of us and say, we cannot sustain any more school children coming into our district. So once again, I ask you to strongly look at this. I admire that you're doing this. This is not an easy task, but there's many facets that you have to do to protect people like me who would love to downsize, but can't afford to downsize. okay? So again, look at those things. There's many facets to our infrastructure, our fire, our fighters. All those things have been in the minutes from many meetings in this room for the last 3 years. So again, I support, and the bravery that you gentlemen have, excuse me, and Angela's not here, and Councilwoman Bettina, to take a look at this, because this is a vast infrastructure and a vast project you guys are taking on. So once again, I support this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Martin. Anyone else wishing to speak on local law number 1? Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is John Gabriel, and I live at 56 Galately Drive, just over the line. But I've lived in Wappingers, I've lived in Beekman, and I live currently in East Fishkill. But I moved up here in 1986, and I've been a realtor ever since. And I want to let you know, I get calls every day from people that want to move to our area or want to stay into our area. Just according to what someone just said before me, would love to retire here, but they really can't afford it because our solutions right now aren't in front of anyone who lives here because it's gotten really, really expensive. So, from being able to downsize so you can stay next to your kids and see your grandkids, it's a challenge nowadays. So I think that the planned residential communities that are going to be moving forward, and by the way, I'm not for having the moratorium. I think that there's plenty of talent and understanding in our approval process that the towns, go through with our engineering, that, someone can propose something now, it won't be approved for a year or two anyway. So I don't know, but holding things up for development, is going to really help us because you guys can enact laws in a relatively, quick time frame. But, whether we all need to have McMansions, that's what it seems like everyone just wants to have up here. And I'm a realtor, and believe me, not everyone can afford $1 million homes, even though I get a lot of calls for it. You get a lot of people that really want to stay here, like if you have kids and they want to try to stay close to their parents, they can't. Not everyone can afford $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. So I think we really do need to have more diversification in the planning process, especially in residential communities. There's no reason why, well, the town has to vote on this, but I don't think there's a reason why you can't have some mixed use where you could have a few retail stores. You could have some, maybe not everyone doesn't want apartments, especially if you already live here, because it's like the closed door process. I moved here, I bought a house, everyone else has to buy a house. But still, you can really get in the planning process condominiums and townhomes, and then have attached homes or small houses, because I'm 63. I don't want to cut 1.5 acres of lawn anymore. I'd love to find 1/4 of an acre that has municipal sewer and probably a common pool, or an area where everyone can get together and not have to go drive to almost another town to go do that. Route 9 is great, and Route 9 has a lot of traffic, as everyone knows. But it'd be great if we do have a lot of land in the town that you can develop properly and still get these nice communities where everyone can go and meet. So, in closing, I just wanted to say, just remember, your parents, they want your kids not too far away. And the kids want to be close to their parents because it's babysitting and everyone needs it, especially if you're trying to raise a family. It's really difficult and it's really costly. So, residential planning and our developments, diversification is super important, and I think the board should look into that, and I think we should plan even better going forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gabriel. Your perspective as a non-resident is definitely noted for the record. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on local law number 1? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the hearing?
Public hearing.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we are going to open our public portion, which allows residents to come and speak on any agenda items only. Do I have a motion to open the public portion?
So moved. I'll second it.
Moved by Councilman moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Anyone wishing to speak on agenda items only? You have 3 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record.
Grace Martin, 52 Fieldstone Boulevard, and I didn't move in the last 20 minutes. A couple items I want to talk about. First of all, most of the board knows I'm an active member of the senior center here, and for this resolution accepting the donations to Parks and Recreations Department for the senior center, I would like to publicly thank the 3 businesses. They're actually paying for our St. Patrick's Day meal, so corned beef and cabbages on them. It was Ulster Savings Bank, John Clare Registered Professional Nursing, PC, and RPH Auto Repair Shop. So again, I really want to thank them for that and investing in the seniors as we're all trying to age in place in Wappinger Falls. As a board, I also want to thank you for the efforts you're doing to keep our town safe, one of which I think is the initiative that I think our county legislator, Robert Faust, started, but obviously you all are supporting this. It's the DOT authorizing the speed limit on Myers Corners Road and the speed limit on Middlebrush to protect our school children in an area. The only other question is most schools, when they protect their school zones, they also protect all their schools around them. So I don't know if you're going to consider doing the Myers Corners Elementary School and the Evans School. But again, I'm highly in putting school zones with reduced speed limits because we do need to protect our children. So again, I applaud you for that. And lastly, on the Parks and Recreation fees, for those of you who don't know, I'm a basketball player. You're going to charge me to play basketball in Spook Hill Park? No. Okay.
No.
It looks like if somebody does somebody...
So, Mrs. Martin, if I could just I can address each one of your questions individually. So is that all your comments?
That's all my
Okay.
comments.
So in regards to the donations, thank you for acknowledging that. One thing that this administration, this board is looking to do is build on our community partnerships when it comes to our recreation programs, our parks, things like that. And we are very grateful to each of those businesses for their generous donation. And we're looking forward to doing more community partnerships as well. In regards to the school zones, we have been working with, as you noted, Legislator Faust. Councilman Phillips has also assisted in particular on this one location on Myers Corners Road. And also talking to New York State DOT and Dutchess County DPW about the feasibility of enacting these school zones. There are restrictions with where you can put the school zones and the reduced speeds. Myers Corners Elementary School and James S. Evans, they happen to sit too far back from the road, plus there's no pedestrian component to each of those schools. Ketchum High School does have a crosswalk right in front of it. There is a pedestrian component there, as well as Wappinger Falls Junior High School. So how we were able to hopefully advocate for this speed reduction was to justify that each of these schools that we've outlined here, Wappinger Falls Junior High and Royce C. Ketchum, have a pedestrian component to it, that we'd like to decrease the speed during school hours and slightly after, obviously, for those students that are commuting there. And that's what we're looking at. And by the way, a background on this, folks, the town of Wappinger, we do not set our speed limits. Whether it's a town road, a county road, or a state road, we have to go through this process here of petitioning the state government to allow them to basically change the speed on our behalf. So that's what we're doing here. We are hopefully adopting tonight 2 resolutions that would request the New York State Department of Transportation to allow the Dutchess County Department of Public Works to then reduce those speeds. So that's what we're looking at here. And then to address your final note under park fees, that is not, we're not gonna have Jessica stationed out there like a toll booth anytime you wish to play basketball at Spook Hill Park. These are for facility rentals, for sanctioned leagues and sanctioned sports. We encourage all of our residents, obviously, to go out and make full use of all of our spaces. This, again, for full clarity, are those organized leagues and sports, tournaments, so on and so forth. They're looking to rent our parks. Also birthday parties, things like that. These are all sanctioned,
Great, I didn't think she was going to charge me, but I wanted to ask.
Well, it's good that we have it on the record.
Organized activities and teams.
You don't know us seniors.
It has your name by it, too, by the way.
Yes.
Charge Grace only, it says.
And Grace Martin.
Martin and the basketball team. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Grace. Anyone else wishing to speak on agenda items only? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public portion? Oh, yep, yes. Please state your name and address for the record. I apologize, I didn't see you there.
No. Matthew Nataro, 51 Teresa Boulevard. Congratulations, by the way, Jeff.
Thank you, Mr.
And,
Nataro.
big thank you to the previous Supervisor Thurston. Appreciate all his work as well as you gentlemen. My thing's on, once again, as I come here and stand here, is on the development that's taking place, as was previously spoken about, touched upon. I just, once again, come to it and say, what are we doing here? You know, we're talking about so many units. I know there's different owners of the respective properties, but we're speaking about so many units, whatever configuration they may be, townhomes, regular homes, whatever. But the amount of traffic that we're talking about, that's a one-lane road each way. You know, I mean, I came up 30 years ago, and speaking to the other gentleman, I grew up in Westchester and had to move up here because I couldn't afford something in Westchester. And although I'm in tandem with the philosophy that it's nice to have your grandkids near you and your parents and your family and all that, I couldn't agree more. Unfortunately, sometimes it's just not the way that it works out. That's on that. Back to the cars. We have one lane each way. I was told that before I came up here, they used to watch cars use Cedar Hill as a cut across. And it had a no-through traffic sign. One of my neighbors told me that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I could see why, because it is a good thoroughfare to cut through. And it's only going to be more of that. If you figure that collectively they put somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 to 600 residents in those 3 parcels, I mean, even if you give 1.5, 2 cars, I mean, you're talking about 1,000 extra cars on one-lane roads, you know? And I think that that's, traffic-wise, really needs to be looked at. As far as building, listen, you bought it, I get it, it's your property, I don't think it should have to stay green, you know? You bought it. Do as you want with it within the confines of the rules that are set forth. You know, once again, I say, don't go to the Chevy dealership, buy a brand-new Chevy, and want to look in your driveway and see a Cadillac. Okay? I thank you, gentlemen, again for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Nataro. Anyone else? Oh, yes. Please come up. Please state your name and address for the record.
Maureen San Angelo, 248 Beacon Lane. I see about the resolution on the pickleball court light towers.
Yes.
I think that's a wonderful idea. The pickleball courts are beautiful.
Thank you.
I know there's been a big controversy
Yes.
with playtime schedule. I had spoken to Councilman Phillips, and I know you're a pickleball player too, Mr. Cassell.
Yes.
I just think that the bad behavior of people from out of town is punishing a larger group of people. We communicate through Playtime Scheduler to set up games, and I'm hoping in the near future the town will be willing to put Morris Fields back on Playtime Scheduler. It's very difficult otherwise. I've gone by the fields, the courts on beautiful days, and they're empty. I mean, people aren't using them. So we're investing in putting these lights there, but we need people to come use them. And I realize the town, it's out of the town taxes and the town taxpayers, but I feel like there has to be some solution we can come to with the Playtime Scheduler. And if anyone's willing to speak to me about it in the future, I'm more than willing to.
Thank you, Ms. Santangelo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak before the board on agenda items only? Yes, sir. Mr. DiNardo. Please state your name and address for the record.
Don Bernardo, 21 Maple Path. I just want to reiterate what a bunch of people have said here before about the development. Cedar Hill development, I want to confirm that they're going to have a public hearing on that again because they're changing now. The planning board, I think, gave 66 lot approval, but now it's in front of you.
This is a different application for a
Yeah.
different property. Different property. This is a property that you're talking about, Cedar Hills LLC, their presentation tonight?
Right.
Correct? That is a different property located between Cedar Hill Road, Old Hopewell Road, and abutting a few other properties.
Okay, but all three of those are going to be about the same time, roughly?
Again, it depends. We're hearing a presentation out for the first time tonight. They're not even in front of the planning board. This is their first time submitting an application to us.
Okay.
This is a brand-new...
reminder, keep in mind the water situation in this
Yes.
area. I think it was 34,000 gallons a day for that one development. I don't know where that's coming from. Okay, thank you, Joe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, by way of background, this is a different application that we just received that's on the agenda here tonight. So, anyone else wishing to speak on agenda items only? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public portion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Beal. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you very much. The public portion is closed. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, per stipulation, we are going to invite the representatives from Cedar Hills LLC up to present their most recent application. So, and also by way of background on this, I believe that they are applying under a special use permit, which the process that's outlined in our town code is that they have to present their proposal before the town board. And so we are satisfying that and going through the town code process. Please introduce yourself for the record. You have about 10 minutes to speak and give your presentation.
I can't get all my billing done in 10 minutes. No, thank
That's
you.
not my problem.
My name's Kenneth M. Stenger. As you know, I represent the applicant here. We also know that 24050E is now and remains the rule of law in this town. The process under this statute is fairly convoluted. It's not the same statute that the other application that I represent the developer on is proceeding under. It's very important to understand what happens here tonight. I am of the understanding that this application is deemed complete, and if it is deemed complete, then what will happen is that that means the building department has gone through it, and all of the information that has to be in the application has been placed in it. If it is deemed complete, it goes to the planning board first, and then the planning board looks at it and comes back with recommendations to the town board, and then the town board will have a public hearing on whether or not the proposal warrants the issuance of a special use permit. Now, special use permits aren't just for special uses. What that means, essentially, what that means very much so, is that the use is permitted within the zone, although not by right. It means that this is an R40 zone, which would be a conventional cookie-cutter subdivision. A special use permit here would allow the lots to be clustered and take up less space. And the housing count, of course, cannot be greater than what you can do otherwise. So the key for a special use permit is not that this is special, but that the impact of what is proposed by the special use permit is going to be similar to or less than what would occur if an application, a development application, was approved under the zoning constraints as they exist. So that recommendation will come back to the planning board, to the town board from the planning board, and then the town board will then analyze whether or not this case makes this application can be deemed a special use permit. It's not an arbitrary choice, yes or no. There are rules that apply to this, and as we go along, I'm certain that everyone will hear about those rules. I just wanted to give everyone here kind of an understanding of how this application is going to work. So if the town board looks at the application, and then based on the standards of a special use permit, which control that decision, decides that the special use permit can be granted here or should be granted here. And again, and I suggest to you that there are rules of law here that are going to govern everyone's action. This is not, oh, I don't like it, we can't do it. This is, here's the rule of law. Did we meet the rule of law? If we do, we get a special use permit. If we didn't, we don't. But it's not, I don't like it. It just doesn't, this particular application doesn't work that way. So if we show that board that we've shown the facts that warrant the grant of a special use permit, and that's after a public hearing, it'll all go back to the planning board one last time. And there'll be a public hearing there as well. And then they'll vote to approve the design that has been permitted or within the parameters of the special use permit that's been permitted by the town. So that's what we're hoping to do tonight, and I understand that this is new in the process. I don't think this process has ever been walked through before. But the way I read the statute is that, and I'm sure you're not prepared to do this evening, and I fully understand this, but we have to get the process going. That's what the court wants. That's what the law requires, and I'm pretty certain that's what we all want. Let's see where the process takes us. So what I'd like to do is come back in 2 weeks and have before the board, subject to your willingness to do so, a resolution that starts the process by referring the application to the planning board for its consideration and its report back to you before you act on it, because it can't go anywhere until it gets to the planning board first. As far as what we're seeing here, I'm listening to the public hearing, and what we're seeing here is that this parcel of property would support 66 single-family dwellings, and I don't like the phrase cookie cutter. I happen to like a 1 acre lawn. Not everybody does. But there are trade-offs here. If you have what the zoning allows currently developed in 1 acre parcels or parcels that are consistent with R40, you're going to have 66 new houses. You're going to have 66 new houses on parcels that meet the R40 zone. But if we do the special use permit, we are looking at a total of 66 houses, 17 of them regular houses, houses on lots, and the balance in townhouse configuration. And here's what that does for everybody. This part, I don't know what people will like. The average price of the house that we would develop in there, if we went with 66 R40 lots, $1.1 million. Nobody can afford to live in this town at that price, except people moving up from Westchester and New York City. If we can do it with the cluster, it will be somewhere between $450 and $500 a house. Still a number. Still a number when I was a kid here, you would have choked on. But it's still a number that maybe kids can afford to stay in their homes and parents can live with their children. What we also do, though, is save, and I think this is a big deal, because I heard the comment about the roads. Here, if you develop this conventionally, you're looking at 1.7 miles of roads. If you develop this under the proposal that we have, it's 0.28 miles. It's 1.5 miles less road. Here, if we're dealing with open space, which is a huge issue, I would think, within this town, because it's got beautiful vistas that it wishes to preserve. In this parcel that we have, develop it conventionally, we have 42.6 acres of open space. If we develop it under this statute, if we give the idea of a special use permit some time to prove itself before we throw it out and say we don't want it without even looking at it, you'll be at 117 acres of open space, more than double what's available if you do it conventionally. And the traffic is also an issue that I've heard here tonight. And in this particular, and it's true, you build more houses, you got more people, you're going to have more traffic. It can't be any other way. We don't have a subway, right? But you have to, the town code as built out of R40, if this was built out conventionally on a weekly basis, I'm not a traffic guy, I'm just reading what the traffic guy wrote. On a weekly basis, you're looking at 2,000 car trips a week. Well, it's a real number, and I wouldn't lie to anybody in here by not putting a real number out there. But if you cluster it, as we are proposing, the weekly drops by 600 car trips a week. Now, this particular type of development is only available in certain areas within the town, where the code, I think, looks to see, does it make sense to minimize impacts? And here's an important thing, because there was a question asked, where is all this water going to come from? If you build stuff conventionally, right, everyone's going to have a well, everyone's going to have a septic. If we go with the special use permit approach, we will have municipal water. Won't affect any homeowner up there. We'll have municipal sewer. Now, that's not your job to get it for my client. It's my job to get it from those who would provide it. If there are, and we'd have to go, I guess, to tri-municipal, I think.
That's right.
I haven't done that work, but under the special use approach, we're not putting in individual septics, and we're not putting in individual wells. We're going to go to the people who have that water and sewer, and I don't, if I'm mistaken, I apologize, but I don't think that necessarily the town board has a call over that. I think there's agencies that do, and so if I have a problem with them, I'll take it up with them. But my promise to this town board, and to anyone who's listening here, who may wish to, maybe we'll hear something from somebody about this project, I'll get that water and sewer. My client's been paying for that water and sewer for the last 35 years. I'll get it for him. I'll get it for you too. But I can only go in that direction if we have the ability if we have a chance to make our case that we're entitled to a special use permit. If we're not given that chance, then that's another issue. But we want the chance, and I don't want a guarantee from anybody here. I just want what I can do as a lawyer to use the law that exists, the law that's been reinstated, to go forward and try to keep the promise that I've just made to you. The only thing I could possibly see as an issue for me, from just based on what I know in the marketplace, is that water should not be an issue. The sewer, if the town was in charge of it, I think would not be an issue either, because from what I can gather, this town has done an excellent job of managing that resource for this town. But maybe perhaps some of the other members of the agencies I have to go to have not done or been as efficient. That's what I'm dealing with. But now you understand what I'm doing, I hope. And if anyone has any reason to ever ask, my office is on 9, you know where I am. Just pick up the phone and call me. I'll tell you what's going on with the application. If I were you, I'd be concerned about it too. You'd sit around and wonder what's going to happen to that land, how many people are going to come live there. I don't know that I can make you feel any better about what we're going to do, but I can tell you what we're going to do. So it won't be rumors we're talking about, it'll be real things. So that's all I'm asking. Thank you for giving me all that time. I know I'm over 10 minutes.
Just a little bit.
But I appreciate that. I just would like a resolution so that we can get to the planning board, and I'd like to do it in 2 weeks if we can.
So, Mr. Stenger, just to briefly recap, you're looking at 66 units.
That's right.
How many were, I guess, considered a multifamily dwelling?
It's not multifamily.
Or-
We're talking about,
It'll all be fee ownership.
we're talking about Acadia Estates, right?
Right.
Okay, so it's actually 78 units.
I'm sorry.
12 single-family homes, and then the 66 are going to be either, townhouses or individually owner-occupied, not rentals,
Condominiums.
or townhouses.
There's 66 townhouses. I told you 66 total.
It'll be
Yes.
78 dwelling units.
So this is back to the original.
Hold on, folks,
We're talking about different projects.
folks, if we could just, let's just hear this.
I guess I want to make this clear.
I was going to say, because now we have multiple numbers
I
out here.
didn't have my notes in front of me with the drawing. So in the conforming subdivision, there's room for 78 houses. In the project with the special use permit, those 78 houses, there'll be 66 clustered. There'll be townhouses. There'll be fee ownership. They will not be apartments. And there'll be 12 houses that will be developed in lots, in standalone lots. That's the proposal.
Okay. Yeah, that's, I'm just trying to clarify, because I see the map there and I see clusters just, I could see homes attached to other homes right there. So I'm just trying to make sense of everything.
And when you first reported it, you had your numbers flipped.
What was that?
You had your numbers flipped before. You said 66 single, it's actually 66 townhouses.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Mr. Councilman.
Thanks for the clarification.
I was speaking in error. There's 66 proposed townhouses,
Thank you.
and there's 12 standalone houses in the application before you.
Thank you. So, again, just trying to fully grasp what you're discussing.
What's the name of
here.
this project?
This is Arcadia.
Arcadia?
Yes, Arcadia Place.
Arcadia, and the developer is Cedar Hills LLC.
Yes, this is the only one that we are hearing tonight.
That's correct.
All right, and just a quick question, with respect to the two cul-de-sacs there, one of them appears to have single-family homes on that street, and the other one has the fee ownership condo/townhomes, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then lastly, just if you're able to answer, if not, the 12 single-family homes on that street, is there a price point?
He
With this
discussed that.
layout, we're looking at more $500,000 range than the 1.1.
Yeah, they covered, they said if they did all the single-family per zoning, they were looking at 1.1 to 1.2. This, you said 400 to 500?
Correct.
Yeah, on the townhouses, we're looking at 400 to 500. I'm not aware what that will turn out to be for the 12 standalones.
Right, so that's where I was going, so.
Since you don't have all that information.
I get it, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, I'm just trying to, people are going to ask,
Sure.
that's all.
And again, before I think we get to that point, you brought up a very valid point of water and sewer.
Would they all have water and sewer? I'm sorry to interrupt. The 66 and 12, would they all have water and sewer?
Yeah, this parcel is actually in the water and sewer district, so everything would be served by municipal services.
Water and sewer, the houses in it?
Yes.
Yes, everything has water and sewer, or will have.
So you're requesting water and sewer into the United Wappinger Water, United Wappinger Sewer. And again, as you noted, the sewer component is under the jurisdiction of the Tri-Municipal Sewer Commission, a commission, folks, that the town of Wappinger has no seats and has no voting power on. And you said previously you have not gone to speak to the Tri-Municipal Sewer Commission?
Yeah, I've been struggling to get this far with this application here. I think once you refer this to the planning board, that'll be the next place I make a phone call.
I would argue before you even get to the planning board, you should satisfy yourself and go to the Tri-Municipal Sewer Commission. I only say this because the town, myself, Councilman Phillips, we've been going and attending these Tri-Municipal Sewer Commission meetings, something that my predecessor in the town was not doing previously. And we've been informed and educated in the current state of the Tri-Municipal Sewer plant located in the town of Poughkeepsie. The town of Wappinger, we are the largest tenant of that sewage treatment plant. We have about 51% of their capacity out there. I would encourage you, before you even pursue this even further, I mean, if this project stands on water and sewer, I would highly encourage you to go satisfy yourself and speak to the engineers and the Tri-Municipal Sewer Commission.
Let me address that,
Yeah.
Mr. Supervisor. I very much appreciate your advice.
That's all it is.
We've spent a lot of time and money and the judicial system to get here, and I have found that occasionally having a judge order something gets everybody to pay attention to you. So I really, quite frankly, don't want to go to another board if we're not in front of this process fully engaged. Your referral to the planning board doesn't set a time frame for you to get your report back, but it allows me to go to the tri-municipal folks and say, look, this is real. We're in front of the planning board now. You have to make some decisions. We've been paying you for 35 years. We need sewer now. Let's have that conversation. Now, that will be a conversation that's not between me and the town board, because you're right, you have no say on it. And I wanted to make that very clear, that I was not looking to the board to assist me in that. But I want the context. I want to be able to say this is real. The town has sent us to the planning board. It's followed the law. And now it's my job to go to you, tri-municipal, and come back and say, and this is real. This is not theoretical. This is not you can put me off till next week. I need an answer. And if you don't do what the law says, I will see that you do. That's what I do. That's my job. But I'd rather be in that position of saying that we are in front of the planning board and engaged in this process before I would say something like that. Because what they'll say to me is this: well, young man, well, they won't say that anymore, Well, why don't you go home and give me a call back when you're in front of the planning board over in the town of Wappingers? We don't want to do that. We're here, put us in the process. Until we get that answer, we won't be coming back to you, because we have to have that answer.
So if you don't have the water and the sewer, municipal water and sewer, are you moving forward with the project or not?
I'm sorry?
If you're not given access to municipal water and sewer, are you still moving your project forward? Would you dig wells? Would
I'll
you put in
cross
your own
that-
septic systems? What would you do?
Well,
I think that question's a little premature, Councilman Casella.
well, I can answer it.
Please.
I'll cross that bridge when I have to. My full intention here is to bring this in the way it should be brought in, clustered. And, you know, the tri-municipal can sit there and say, okay, we can't or we can, but until I talk to them, until I see why they can't, until I point out to them the consequences of perhaps they should, I won't have that answer. I want that shot. If I can't get it done, I'll come back and I'll tell you, but I want that shot. And I'm not asking you to support me in it. I'm just asking you to give me the ability to do it. That's all.
Which is why I was giving the recommendation there. And again, you're also seeking water as well, and something that we have notified our town residents of is we had to shut down one of our town wells. We have active PFOA contamination problem in the United Wappinger Water District, something that we are monitoring very closely, folks, and have under control. But again, especially with the state of New York actively changing the PFOA restrictions and the limits, it's something that this town is looking at very closely. And again, you'll go through that process. But at this time, I would like to just hand it off to our town attorney. Maybe you can give a little more insight context to the situation.
So the recommendation to satisfy yourselves for sewer has been somewhat of a topic of discussion, because after the most recent tri-muni meeting, the board was very concerned.
Use that microphone, everyone can hear you.
The board was very concerned about the state of affairs of the sewer plant. So the thought was, you know, it wasn't to put a roadblock in front of you guys. We know how expensive the process is. It's time-consuming. It raises a number of concerns, all of which you mentioned, you know, in the introduction. So it's a recommendation. It's not something that it really made sense to the board to just simply make that recommendation to the developer that we have concerns. It hasn't been expressed publicly. This is, you know, the first time we're coming, you know, back from a meeting with significant concerns of our own, and that was the point of raising that.
Yeah,
So
it's not to do anything but to put this in front of you, as before you even get to the planning board, you should highly recommend you go and visit the tri-municipal.
Let me just say one more thing. The board has been going through the process of hiring consultants, and there's been a number of changes in consultants. New attorney to the planning board, new attorney to the town, new engineers. It's taken us a little bit for all of us to kind of get together and get on the same page as far as how these applications would be processed. So we're in that process, and I'm just raising it because this is all, you know, as new as you bring in an application under 240-50 is for you guys. We have to figure out who and what and why and where. So I'm just giving you that info, but.
So let me just respond to that. I appreciate every recommendation I can get on this from everybody at that podium, as well as the professionals here that I've worked with in other places for the last 25, 30 years. Recommendations are not roadblocks until they become roadblocks.
Right, that's true.
So I'm open to any recommendation, but I must, with all due respect, Mr. Supervisor, for the reasons that I placed on the record tonight, I cannot follow that recommendation. I think if I'm going to have a problem with the sewer, which is what I'm not hearing just here, I'd rather find out what the problem is sooner rather than later, define it, see if you can fix it. And then if I can't, then I have to come back here and say, well, we're wasting our time, let's not do that. But we've already spent a year trying to get to this meeting. So I don't want to spend any more time waiting. It doesn't commit the town to get me in front of the planning board. It just allows me to do what I have a right to do. And that's what I'd ask you to do in 2 weeks, please.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Are there any further questions, comments from members of the board?
Just a point of clarification, PFOAs were present in one of our wells. That well was shut down. There are no PFOAs present in our water system.
As I stated previously, yes,
Right,
it
just
is
wanna-
shut down.
Just want to
Yes.
clarify that. Thank you.
It is shut down. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Stanger.
And also, I apologize. I believe the individual here may have had a comment.
Yes.
I had a question for
Yes.
Ernestine, 287 Pine Ridge Drive. With regards to the public sewer and water, would that affect the taxes for the rest of us?
No, it would not. No. If anything, there would have to be a United Wappinger Water and United Wappinger Sewer District expansion to expand to your area of Pine Ridge Drive, Teresa Boulevard, so on and so forth. And again, that has not been discussed. Again, in the same token, there are legitimate and serious concerns at the tri-municipal sewer plant dealing with capacity out there. We are seeing that all across the board, that the plant has not been maintained to its best extent, and that needs to be addressed before any additional, entries and properties are added to the district. So no, this would not have an impact on your taxes in that regard.
Mr. Supervisor, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Can there be a motion made to prepare a resolution to allow this application to go to the planning board to be presented and voted upon by the town board at its next meeting? Well, I just don't want you to tell me you support me. I'm not asking that.
No.
I just want to get to where I can get to work and not take up your valuable time on a topic that really, at this juncture, it will eventually, but at this juncture is my problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, Mr. Stanger, I do appreciate that, and we are just learning of the project for the first time, and we were in receipt of your packet when I was supervisor-elect. We did review it.
Well, I can be frank with you. The law is very clear.
Yes.
If the application is complete, you have no choice but to pass the resolution. And I've waited a year to get here. I do not propose to wait much longer. Not to get a decision.
Oh, no,
but just to get to where I'm supposed to be. So I'm very happy to come back in 2 weeks. But I would very much hope, well, let me ask you this question. You can answer for me. Do you need a motion in advance of a resolution, or can you just place a resolution on the agenda if it's determined that you want to proceed?
We can place a resolution on the agenda going through the town board rules. It's about usually the week prior to the next town board meeting.
All right. Well, then there's no need for a motion here.
Right.
I very much appreciate the time. No, I just,
With all due respect, listen, we have to speak to our attorney and determine the best route on how to proceed. You know that already.
Yes.
So we'll do that, and certainly whatever the best interest for the town as a whole is, we will proceed accordingly.
no, I fully appreciate that. Now that I understand we don't need a resolution, I withdraw my request. Thank you.
And again, we will do our due diligence just as you have done yours. Thank you, sir. Okay. Moving right along. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. First resolution. Resolution 2024-71. Resolution accepting undertaking secured by decommissioning bond in connection with Old Myers, New York, LLC. Resolution 2024-87, resolution accepting donation to Parks and Recreation Department Senior Center Division. Resolution 2024-88, a resolution authorizing improvements to pickleball court light towers at Martz Field. Resolution 2024-89, resolution requesting New York State DOT to authorize reduction of speed limit on Myers Corners Road. Resolution 2024-90, resolution requesting New York State DOT to authorize reduction of speed limit on Middlebush Road. Resolution 2024-91, resolution approving memorandum of agreement with CSEA Local 1000. Resolution 2024-92, resolution clarifying responsibilities of administering escrows and consultant billing. Resolution 2024-96, correspondence log. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. Discussion?
Just real quick, on the school zones, certainly, this is for public safety reasons, obviously, and as the supervisor said before, we're at the mercy of the county and the state to approve it. If we don't receive a level of approval, I should say, of these specific resolutions, I'm sure we'll come back and discuss how we can further improve those corridors, because you may have noticed the supervisor and the council members on the other side of town had arranged for the sheriff's office to have a speed trailer out there by Ketchum. That was not just there to tell people what their speed is. That actually collected a considerable amount of data on how many cars and what the average speed was and things like that. So this is being done based on data analysis, and we hope to receive approval from those other levels of government, but if not, we're not going to just let it go.
Yes. And that data, as stated by Councilman Beal, was very valuable. I'd also like to thank County Legislator Rob Faust for his assistance in that, and the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office for providing that very, very valuable information on traffic out on Myers Corners Road. Just as a way of feedback and background, there are 10,000 cars that travel in the area of Royce Ketchum every day on the average. So that was very, very interesting information.
The average speed was, believe it or not, 40 miles per hour.
And it was. It was.
Which is the speed limit.
Which is the speed limit.
The point is, though, you see the kids walking on the shoulder.
Yes.
There's no sidewalks there. That's another discussion for another time. But the point is, there are time frames where vehicles need not be doing 40 miles per hour.
Exactly. So,
Just a couple more comments, please, if I could.
Yes, Councilman.
So the Myers Corners LLC, so we talked about that, was tabled a number of times here. Thanks to our engineer, Mr. Paggi, we're able to get clarification on that, feel a lot more comfortable that they're going to take a look at the panels every 3 years, and if the bond needs to be re-upped, because it's only $81,000 today, 3 years they'll take that and look at it, reassess it, and if it needs to go higher, we can go ahead and move forward. So I feel comfortable with doing any kind of remediation that would potentially be made. Second one is I wanted to address one of the concerns from somebody about the pickleball courts. So as you know, we just recently put out brand new signs out there, and we did that for a reason, because we had some issues with people not following the rules. So again, there's 3 signs out there, brand new. The courts will be numbered. Again, we wanted to put the lights out there because we want to be able to have the residents enjoy the pickleball courts, after 7, 8 o'clock at night, because people after work want to be able to use those. As far as the app itself, again, we want to see if people are following the rules that we've just recently posted. Again, there are a few people that are still not following the rules. So again, let's see how the signs work out. There's potential. We're looking at having our recreation director own an app, potentially for potential, stopgap for now, and then at future time we may go back to playtime. But right now, there's no immediate plans to go back there right now. So again, make sure everybody's following the rules. Donna Wappinger's residents get an opportunity to play there first. I've been there the last couple of days. Everybody seems to be following rules, which is great. I play myself, and again, we're going to go with the app first, probably through the recreation, and then again, if people abide by the rules, we'll take a look at reinstating the playtime.
Just make a comment on that, because even Dutchess County, when you go to Quiet Cove, they have the big sign about playtime.
So,
and suggest using that.
So I know that we've had a lot of back and forth from the audience. If you can refrain from that, Councilman Casella, Councilman Phillips, and myself will be available to talk about that further. I will note the difference between Dutchess County's Quiet Cove Park and Martz Field. That is owned by Dutchess County. That is open to all Dutchess County residents. Martz Field is for the town of Wappinger residents and for their guests. But again, we can have that conversation outside.
And also, that one doesn't have lights, so
yes.
I'm glad to see that we're in the lights. Well, those lights are provided by my office as a courtesy because there are no lights there. So we've been providing lighting to help out Serge and Sue O'Neill because they have such a gathering there on Friday nights. But we're going to have permanent light solutions here, which is really going to be good. And I will say this: I did venture out to the pickleball courts, looking for Councilman Casella playing, but he wasn't there. But I want to. That's true. I was actually looking to try to catch a photo.
I've tried too a few times.
I know he's out there because he had a change of clothes in his car the other day, but I missed him. But I want to say this: you all have done a phenomenal job. The signage is professional. Everything is on point out there, and I really haven't been out there since this all happened, this phenomenon. And, you know, it was raining, so nobody was out there. But the point is, everything looks great. So great job, and, you know, the fact that we're adding the lighting at a nominal cost here, I think is a win. And, you know, someday, you know, when I'm your age, I may take this up.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No, thank you very much.
That really hurt, you know.
What?
Yeah, see, I don't need glasses.
Gotta love it, gotta love it. Live TV, folks, don't forget. All right. Resolution 2024, this is the non-consent resolutions. Resolution 2024-86, resolution adopting local law number 1 of 2024. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it. Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support, ladies, gentlemen, and of course, Councilwoman Bettina on this. This is very important. Thank you. Resolution 2024-93, resolution appointing Labor and Employment Council to the town of Wappinger. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Moved by
second
Councilman
it.
Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. By the way of discussion, the town comptroller, Jessica Servideo, myself, and Councilman Casella did a Zoom interview with the firm. They're based out of Albany. We were very, very satisfied with them. We received 2 estimates. We decided to go with this one for a variety of reasons. We are comfortable with them, and we are going to move forward. This is good to have this team in place for Labor Council folks. As we are about to enter into our collective bargaining agreement negotiations next year, and we have a number of other employment and personnel issues that we're trying to wrap up and resolve. So in working with our comptroller's office, my office, and the town board, we feel that this Labor Council will be a welcomed addition to our town government.
The other point I think you want to make is that even though they may be based out of Albany, they can be here, they can do Zoom calls, they can do a number of things. So we felt very comfortable that they're going to be able to service the needs of the town. So again, the 3 of us did interview, we all felt comfortable, brought that back to the rest of the board, and we're hiring these guys. So thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion, we have a second.
Oh, we already got it. Chris
Yep,
was-
I know. So we had a motion, we had a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Resolution 2024-94, resolution adopting parks and recreation fees for the calendar year 2024. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Councilman Phillips,
I'll second it.
second by Councilman Casella. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, thank you very much. Resolution 2024-95, resolution amending purchase amount to purchase real property adjacent to Reese Park. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Moved by Councilman Beal,
Second.
second by Councilman Phillips. Discussion?
Well, I mean, this is the piece of property we've talked about, which is located just outside the village of Wappingers Falls on South Avenue. This is formerly owned by Louis Deal, who's a former town supervisor. We have had a unique opportunity here to acquire this property, which is adjacent to Reese Park, for the purposes of creating a parking area and a trailhead, which gives us real access and real parking to that park property. It's been a challenge for decades because the right-of-way easement that exists between 2 parcels there has no parking, and it has been a safety hazard and an inconvenience for neighbors when people park there and walk into that park using that existing trail. So this is going to really give us an opportunity to remove the structure that's dilapidated on the property, clear it, and create a usable space that's contiguous with our park.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Beal. And again, this is a historic addition to our town's park system. It's welcomed. It's definitely needed. Reese Park Nature Preserve is an underutilized asset here in our town, and this will allow folks all around to have better access to it and visibility. Just by way of background, this resolution is allowing the town board to add additional money to the purchase amount, covering the legal costs associated with the purchase. We are scheduled to have the closing tomorrow at
11?
At 11 in the village, and we are very excited for this very historic addition to our park system. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Thank you. At this time, do we have any items for special consideration and/or new business? I'll start with Councilman Beal.
I'll pass for now. I don't think I have anything, but I just want to make sure. Go ahead.
Okay. Councilman Phillips?
Yep.
Councilman Casella?
Yes, I have two, actually. So the first one is we want to put a culvert or update the culvert over at Rockingham Park soccer field. Right now, it's in poor condition. Steve Frazier has gotten an estimate from our Buildings and Grounds Supervisor from Clove Excavators. It's $3,080. Again, it's something that needs to be reset. If you were looking at the actual culvert, what it does is instead of going this way, it actually goes this way, so it kind of bends in the wrong direction. So the water coming off of the soccer fields just sits on the soccer field. So once we reset it, it'll not go into the pond that's on the other side of the culvert. That should alleviate some of the water issues that we have there. So, and again, we're looking to potentially at some time, and I want to talk to the town board, not tonight necessarily, but repave Rockingham Park, the driveway there. It's in disrepair, so that's something I'll ask the board to talk at another time. But again, I want to make a motion tonight, if the board is okay with this, to approve $3,080 to go ahead and reset the culvert over at Rockingham Park, soccer park.
So Councilman Casella has made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Beal. Any further discussion? And this is coming out of B fund
B
balance,
fund balance, correct.
Thank you, Councilman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you very much.
There is one other one I wanted to talk, as long as we have Steve Frazier in the facilities here today. Trees at Robinson Lane, you had brought that up, so we have a budget of $15,000 for that today. We have an estimate out there of $4,400 to trim a lot of the trees around F3 and all the fields behind that. Again, a lot of the lights are covered. It's something that needs to be done, so the lights don't even shine up in the right field. The other thing we're looking at doing it too is also trying to get some fill over there, Steve. But anyway, tonight's thing is to, again, bring up $4,400 estimate. We need a second estimate based on our procurement policy. So if you go out there and get me a second estimate, I want to get this done as soon as we can, hopefully before opening day, which is April 13th. I don't know if that's possible or not, but again, we need that second estimate. But I want to bring this to the board's attention that we do have one estimate out there. Again, it's going to make for greater visibility for those playing in the outfield, particularly out in right and center field out on F3. And again, it'll go all the way back through the by Challenger Field, so it goes a significant distance out there. So again, I just want to bring that to the board's attention. Again, Steve, if you can get us a second estimate, that would be great. I'd like to move on this as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Councilman Casella. Councilman Casella, myself, and Little League leadership have met, and we feel that this is appropriate to trim the trees, which are hanging considerably over some of those fields out there. So we're going to be looking into doing that. Thank you, Supervisor of Buildings and Grounds, Steve Frazier, for getting us that quote. We're looking forward to seeing the second one. The reason why that would not need to be approved by the town board is because that's in the budget already. So the department head has the discretion with the supervisor to execute that purchase. He just needs that second quote. And that will be moving forward, you know, not at this
So
dais.
Steve, if you can have that for the meeting on the 25th, that would be great. This way we can do the resolution and get it approved.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Councilman Casella?
No, that's it.
I have one item here. This was referred to us by our town attorney. Per active litigation, we needed to provide the court with a verbatim transcription of a few of our meetings on one of the projects, which is now involved in a lawsuit. So we have a bill here of $3,175 to be paid to Veritext for the purposes of those transcriptions to satisfy the court. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
That would be out of B fund
Yes.
balance, correct. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Thank you, folks. Seeing that,
I just got a couple things. So
there we go.
sorry about that.
No.
I was trying to find my notes. So Nature Preserve has been connected.
Yes. We turned the valve ourselves, right, Larry?
Sorry, Larry, I didn't even know you were there. Again, thank you for everyone assisting with making that happen. And to be fair, the contractor, BTM, was, we'll say, overbooked, and that's why it took so long to get this thing in. That's my understanding. So the town really has been persistent on this for quite some time. But most importantly, from a public safety perspective, the fire hydrant is now freed up and fully accessible, and that system now is intact. So that's a good thing. Thank you for your assistance on that. I noticed that Fun Max Adventure Park is getting close to the finish line up there. Great. So I'd like to speak to Barbara about, or whoever the building inspector is on that, before they open, just to do a walkthrough with the emergency services, just so that we can, there's some unique features to these bounce places. I just want to have a walkthrough at some point prior to them officially opening, just so that the emergency agencies are familiar with how to access certain things in that establishment. I'm glad that we didn't fix the stone wall in front of the emergency services building yet, because with all the rain we've had, it has seeped down even further. So it's going to need a new foundation, clearly. I mean, it was put in I think, 1995. A vehicle struck it about 3 or 4 years ago. The vehicle crashed into the stone wall in front of the state police barracks and then left the scene. Which is interesting. So we didn't have insurance money on that. But we're going to have to bite the bullet on this. This is something that I think we should get a quote on fixing. I'd like to look at maybe a quote that involves some beautification that we did a number of years ago with mulch around the emergency services building, the stone in front of the emergency services building. And these are things that would, of course, complement the beautification that already occurs here by Ms. Martin and her team. So if the town board doesn't mind, I will get a quote on either the entire project or a couple different aspects of it, so that we can take a look at it and do a cost analysis. We all know that Steve is fully capable to do this, but he's got plenty of other priorities besides beautification, right? So I think the approach would be to contract this out and get this done so that it can, be in place at some point during the springtime.
Yeah, Councilman Beal, I think that's a great idea. I think that what we've been trying to do is follow the procurement policy as best as possible. If we can get 2 quotes on that project, that would be great. I think the town board would consider that, because one thing that we'd like to do is continue to beautify the town. And this campus especially has been complemented by the Wappinger Senior Center Garden Club, which we greatly appreciate. But there are other things that I would argue are out of their scope of work that we should be doing to enhance the property. I'm sure Grace Martin would be happy to do it, but things are out of the scope of work there. So if we can look at potentially both campuses here, and get some quotes from mulch.
A number of years ago, when I think they had to dig up a sewer line over here, they did something at the emergency services building, and it was just a disaster. So we had Lehigh at the time come in and do all the mulch and trim all the bushes and do everything around that building. I think that was pre-COVID. That's how long ago that was.
Yes, it was.
And it hasn't been done since. We've had other things going on. The wall got hit by a vehicle. So I think it's just a good opportunity now that we're coming into the springtime to look at this and approach it. So I'll put that together. I'll get 2 quotes. I'll get it before the town board, and hopefully we can move forward.
Perfect. Thank you, Councilman Beal. I have no further business, and we have no need to enter into executive session tonight, so we will be adjourning the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Beal. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Thank you very much. Thank you, folks, for coming out tonight. We had quite the conversation and I think a good discussion. Thank you.